beneath ancient ruins and endless sands, beyond the reach of light in forgotten caves, and adrift in the silence of the deep sea, lie treasures whispered about through centuries, golden hoards, lost jewels, sacred relics. Their stories echo across time, wrapped in mystery and laced with longing. Not one of them has ever been found. And yet, the world still searches. Before we begin, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It's somewhat comforting to imagine all of us, scattered across the globe, quietly unwinding together. So, breathe deeply, settle in, and allow the mysteries of time and space to cradle your imagination. The air is cool and still, the kind of quiet that feels sacred, wrapped within the stone walls of a medieval chapel where time itself seems to sleep. Candles flicker gently along the narrow aisles, their flames dancing against stained glass that casts muted colours on the flagstone floor. The scent of old wood, aged stone, and faint incense lingers, a reminder of prayers once whispered and vows once sworn. As you stand in this hushed space, it is easy to imagine the heavy footfalls of the knights in white mantles adorned with a crimson cross, their steps deliberate, their gaze steady with purpose. This is the realm of the Knights Templar, an order of warriors and monks, of piety and power, and of one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. The story of the Templars begins in the early years of the 12th century, born in the wake of the First Crusade. In 1119, a small band of knights led by Hugues de Payon pledged themselves to a sacred mission, to protect Christian pilgrims travelling to the Holy Land, especially along the dangerous roads to Jerusalem. What began as a modest brotherhood of just 9 men soon blossomed into an order that would become rich, influential, and feared. They called themselves the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, a name shortened in time to the Knights Templar. Despite their vow of poverty, the Templars quickly gained favour with both church and crown. Gifts of land, wealth, and privileges poured in from across Europe. The order established a network of commanderies, fortified monasteries that functioned as banks, training grounds, and way stations. They created an early form of international banking, allowing pilgrims to deposit funds in one city and withdraw them safely in another, a revolutionary system in a perilous world. Their power grew silently, brick by brick, ledger by ledger. By the height of their influence, the Templars held lands stretching from Scotland to the Holy Land, amassed untold riches, and wielded the kind of political sway that unsettled kings and popes alike. Their emblem, a red cross on a white background, became a symbol of martial might and divine favour. But power, as history often shows, breeds envy, and in the waning years of the 13th century, the Templars' fortunes began to turn. The Crusader states in the Holy Land crumbled, and with them, the justification for the order's military presence. In France, King Philip IV, known as Philip the Fair, found himself deeply in debt to the Templars following costly wars. Greed and fear festered into a plot, and with the cooperation of Pope Clement V, Philip struck. On Friday, the 13th of October, 1307, at dawn, Templars across France were arrested in a coordinated sweep. The date, Friday the 13th, would forever carry the weight of ill fortune. The knights were accused of heresy, blasphemy, and unspeakable rituals, charges likely fabricated, but persuasive under the shadow of the Inquisition. Under torture, many confessed to whatever their captors wished to hear. Their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, was burned at the stake in 1314, his final curse supposedly promising that both Pope and King would soon join him in death. And indeed, within the year they both perished. Yet, amid these grim events, one question remained unanswered. Where was the Templars' treasure? The Order's wealth had been legendary, encompassing not just gold and silver, but precious relics, sacred artifacts, and perhaps even knowledge meant only for the initiated. When the French authorities seized Templar properties, they found less than expected. The coffers were suspiciously light. It seemed that, somehow, the treasure had vanished. Stories soon spread of Templar knights, forewarned of the king's treachery, secretly spiriting away their riches in the dead of night. Beneath the Paris Temple, a formidable fortress that once stood where modern-day Paris now bustles, secret tunnels were said to have sheltered chests of gold, documents, and relics of immense importance. But these vaults were never found. Another legend tells of the Templar fleet stationed at La Rochelle, a bustling port on France's Atlantic coast. According to some accounts, a fleet of ships departed under cover of darkness, their destination unknown, their holds heavy with treasure. Did they sail to Scotland, where the Templars were rumoured to have found sanctuary among sympathetic clans? Or did they cross the seas to the fledgling colonies of the New World, centuries before Columbus ever sailed? The trail of the treasure grows colder but richer in possibility when we consider Scotland's Rosslyn Chapel, a stone edifice adorned with enigmatic carvings that some claim hold Masonic and Templar secrets. Built in the 15th century, its intricately detailed walls depict strange imagery, ears of corn, angels, cryptic symbols, stoking theories that the chapel was built atop a hidden vault containing the Templars' lost hoard, or even the Holy Grail itself. Yet the myths do not end there. Some believe the treasure was hidden in Portugal, where the Templars survived under a new name, the Order of Christ. This rebranded order continued quietly, their wealth and knowledge perhaps preserved, their power subtly transmuted into the age of exploration, fueling Portugal's imperial ambitions. The notion of the Templars' treasure extends beyond mere wealth. Some accounts suggest that among the lost artifacts was the Ark of the Covenant, the ancient chest said to hold the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments. Others whisper of ancient scrolls, sacred knowledge from antiquity, secrets capable of challenging the authority of both church and crown. To find the treasure, then, is not just to find gold, but to unearth a legacy that could rewrite history. Across centuries, adventurers, historians, and conspiracy theorists have searched for this treasure. From the ruins of southern France to the shores of Nova Scotia, where Oak Island's infamous money pit is said to conceal Templar relics, the quest continues. Yet, with every expedition, the treasure remains as elusive as ever, its presence felt only in the imagination, in whispered tales, in the rustle of old parchment and the echo of spurred footsteps in forgotten halls. As you leave the imagined chapel, stepping out into the cool night air, the stars glimmer faintly above. The ground beneath your feet feels heavy with secrets, as though the very earth remembers what it has been asked to hide. The Templars are gone, their banners lowered, their legacy obscured by time and shadow. Yet their story lingers, a quiet challenge to those who still seek to uncover what was lost, not merely gold, but the enigma of a vanished brotherhood. Somewhere, beneath stone, beneath soil, beneath centuries of silence, the treasure of the Knights Templar may yet slumber, waiting for the hand brave or fortunate enough to awaken it. High in the cloud-wreathed peaks of the Andes, where mist clings to the mountains like a delicate shroud and the wind hums softly through the valleys, a secret has slept for centuries. The air here is thin and cool, scented with wild orchids and damp earth, and the landscape feels untouched, as though the past still lingers in the shadows of the stones. Somewhere in these remote highlands lies one of history's most enduring mysteries, a treasure so vast, so glittering, that it seems almost too grand to be true. This is the story of the lost Inca gold of the Langanatis. The legend begins in the early 16th century, at a time when the mighty Inca Empire spanned much of West and South America. Its heart was Cuzco, a city of splendor and stone, where the walls were lined with gold and the temples shimmered in the sun. But this glory caught the greedy eyes of the Spanish conquistadors, led by Francisco Pizarro, whose arrival on Peruvian shores in 1532 marked the beginning of a devastating conquest. At the center of the tale is Atahualpa, the last sovereign emperor of the Inca. Captured by Pizarro in the city of Cajamarca, Atahualpa struck a desperate bargain for his life. He offered a ransom unlike any the world had ever seen, a room filled with gold as high as he could reach, and 2 more rooms filled with silver. The Incas, honoring their word, began to gather treasures from across the empire: statues, ornaments, plates, and sacred objects crafted in the precious metal of the sun. But fate, as it often does, turned cruel. Despite the ransom being paid in part, Pizarro executed Atahualpa in 1533, fearing his power and influence even in captivity. The act sent ripples of betrayal and horror throughout the Inca world. It is said that when news of Atahualpa's death reached those transporting the remainder of the treasure, panic spread. Fearing the gold would fall into Spanish hands, they turned away from their path and disappeared into the treacherous Langanatis Mountains, a wild, misty expanse of peaks, ravines, and dense cloud forests in what is now Ecuador. There, in the folds of the mountains, the gold was hidden, so the story goes. A vast hoard of golden artifacts, ceremonial statues, jewelry, and plates, all carefully concealed in caves or buried beneath the earth, never to be retrieved. The Incas who carried it knew the terrain intimately, and the mountains themselves became silent guardians, their labyrinthine paths and sudden cliffs swallowing secrets whole. For centuries, the tale of the lost Inca gold of the Langanatis has lured countless adventurers, conquistadors, and fortune seekers into the wilderness. One of the earliest recorded attempts to find the treasure came from a Spanish soldier named Valverde, who was rumored to have been shown the location by an Inca companion. Valverde supposedly amassed great wealth from the cache, but he was killed before he could reveal its true location. All that remained was a crude map and scattered references, known later as the Valverde manuscript, hinting at landmarks within an unforgiving landscape. Yet, the Langanatis mountains are not easily tamed. Dense fog often reduces visibility to mere feet. The terrain shifts unexpectedly, with sudden rockfalls and slippery trails. Even experienced explorers have spoken of an eerie presence in the mountains, as if the very land resists intrusion. Some have returned empty-handed, broken by the elements. Others have not returned at all. Despite these hardships, the allure of the lost gold persists. In the 19th and 20th centuries, waves of treasure hunters ventured into the highlands, armed with maps, local guides, and unyielding ambition. Expeditions vanished, maps proved unreliable, and no verifiable discovery was ever made. The jungle, it seems, is a master of concealment, covering traces with each passing season. There are those who believe that the treasure may never have existed in the first place, a myth born from the collision of 2 empires and the imaginations of conquerors and chroniclers. Yet the Incas were known for their masterful use of gold, not merely as currency, but as a sacred material symbolizing the sun, divine power, and imperial might. To them, gold was more than wealth. It was a bridge between the earthly and the divine. The thought of hiding such treasure to protect it from desecration fits deeply within the Incan worldview. As you stand amidst the misty peaks, the wind carrying the scent of moss and mountain flowers, the mystery feels alive. The ground underfoot is soft with centuries of fallen leaves, and the towering cliffs seem to whisper stories of those who came before, hopeful, determined, or perhaps desperate. Somewhere beneath the soil, beneath moss-covered stones, or sealed within forgotten caves, the lost Inca gold of the Langanatis might still slumber, untouched, undisturbed. Perhaps the treasure was not just of gold, but of defiance, a final act of resistance by a proud civilization unwilling to see its sacred heritage desecrated by foreign hands. In that sense, the real treasure may be the story itself, a golden thread that continues to weave through history, binding past to present in shimmering mystery. As the sun sets behind the jagged peaks and the last light glows soft and golden through the mist, the mountains fall back into shadow, cloaked once more in secrecy. The Andes remain steadfast, their veils of fog ever shifting, their paths ever changing, guarding the lost gold with a patience only the earth itself can possess. You descend from the highlands slowly, each step cushioned by the damp, mossy earth. The air grows cooler, the sky deepens to indigo, and the soft hush of the wind feels like the breath of the ancients themselves. The treasure may still rest, unclaimed, deep within the Langanatis, waiting, watching, and reminding us that some mysteries are meant not just to be solved, but to be dreamed of beneath quiet stars. In the dense jungles of the Philippines, where emerald canopies stretch endlessly overhead, and the air is rich with the scent of damp leaves and orchids, there lingers a secret steeped in war, betrayal, and whispers of unimaginable wealth. As the wind stirs through the towering trees and the calls of distant birds echo through the foliage, you can almost sense the presence of something hidden, silent and watchful. Somewhere beneath these layers of greenery, according to legend, lies Yamashita's gold, one of the most tantalizing lost treasures of the modern world. The story begins in the fiery crucible of World War II. As the Japanese Empire expanded across Asia, its forces plundered the riches of conquered territories, China, Malaysia, Burma, and the Dutch East Indies. Palaces, banks, temples, and private homes were stripped of gold, gemstones, artworks, and sacred relics. The wealth, it is said, was destined for Japan to fortify the empire's coffers and sustain the war effort. But as the tide of war began to turn against Japan, transporting such immense treasure back to the homeland became increasingly perilous. Enter General Tomoyuki Yamashita, known as the Tiger of Malaya, for his swift and ruthless campaigns. In 1944, with Allied forces advancing through the Pacific and threatening the Japanese stronghold in the Philippines, it is believed that Yamashita was entrusted with overseeing the concealment of this vast plunder. Assisted by Prince Yasuhito Chichibu, who allegedly led a secret operation called Golden Lily, the Japanese military began hiding the treasure within the Philippines, deep in caves, tunnels, and underground bunkers, ingeniously booby-trapped to thwart any who dared seek it. The supposed treasure was colossal: tons of gold bars, countless crates of jewels, religious icons of priceless craftsmanship, and cultural artifacts spanning Asia's diverse civilizations. Some say the loot was not merely for war, but also a private hoard, an imperial safeguard against defeat. As the war ground towards its bitter end, Yamashita's forces faced encirclement and eventual surrender. In 1945, Yamashita was captured, tried for war crimes, and executed, but he never revealed the locations of the hidden treasure. Whether out of loyalty, defiance, or because the full truth was never his to tell, the secret was buried with him. The first whispers of the Yamashita's gold emerged soon after the war. Stories spread of local villagers stumbling upon caches of gold or strange crates marked with Japanese characters. Some even claimed to have witnessed executions of those who tried to interfere, grim reminders that such riches come at a perilous cost. Then came Rogelio Roxas, a Filipino locksmith and treasure hunter whose name would become inseparable from the legend. In the 1970s, Roxas claimed to have discovered a hidden chamber near Baguio City. Inside, he reported finding gold bars and, most famously, a massive golden Buddha said to be hollow and filled with even more treasure. But before he could reveal the full extent of his find, Roxas was arrested, allegedly tortured, and the treasure confiscated, an act many believed was orchestrated by the regime of Ferdinand Marcos, the then president of the Philippines. Roxas's story became the center of a protracted legal battle that outlived him. His claims were both supported and contested, with allegations of conspiracy, cover-ups, and government greed shadowing every detail. In 1996, a court in Hawaii ruled that Marcos had indeed plundered treasure from Roxas's discovery, awarding a substantial sum to Roxas's estate, an acknowledgement that added further intrigue to an already murky tale. Despite decades of searching, no definitive proof of Yamashita's gold has ever been publicly confirmed. The jungles of the Philippines remain vast, their depths concealing countless caves and underground hollows. Some believe that even if parts of the treasure were found, much of it remains hidden, protected by nature and the lethal traps said to guard it. Skeptics argue that the treasure is a myth exaggerated by wartime rumors, opportunists, and a collective fascination with lost riches. They point to the logistical improbability of transporting and concealing such vast amounts of treasure in the chaos of war. Others counter that wartime Japan was a disciplined, highly organized force capable of executing such covert operations, especially with the resources and motivation of impending defeat. For the Filipino people, Yamashita's gold is more than a tale of lost fortune. It represents a complex legacy of war, occupation, and national trauma. The idea that beneath their very feet lies the stolen wealth of Asia, a fortune that could transform the nation's fate, adds a poignant, almost mythical dimension to the land itself. As you walk slowly through the thick jungle paths, the air heavy with humidity and the earthy aroma of decay and renewal, every mound of soil, every dark crevice seems to hold a possibility. The vines twist like nature's locks upon a door, and the songs of insects become a strange lullaby for the hidden past. The ground feels sacred, not only for what it may conceal, but for the blood and history that fertilized it. And perhaps that is the most haunting aspect of Yamashita's gold, not the glitter of gold bars or the sparkle of gemstones, but the shadow of human ambition, cruelty, and desperation that accompanied them. Whether the treasure exists as legend or reality, its story remains a mirror reflecting the darker currents of human history: war, greed, betrayal, and the yearning for discovery. As night falls over the jungle, the trees stand tall and silent, sentinels over secrets that have waited for generations. The air cools, and the rhythmic hum of nocturnal life begins to stir. Somewhere beneath the forest floor, encased in earth and stone, the gold may still rest, quiet, untouched, watching the stars through a veil of soil and time. You step carefully back from the tangled undergrowth, the echo of the legend following you like a shadow. In the hush of the evening, the jungle breathes slowly, as if guarding the treasure still, patient and eternal. Whether Yamashita's gold is fact or fable, the allure of its mystery endures, as enduring as the jungle itself. Imagine the soft hush of winter settling over an old palace on the outskirts of St. Petersburg. The air is crisp, scented faintly with pine and frost, while a delicate layer of snow carpets the grand avenues where carriages once rolled and nobility once strolled. The sky is pale, veiled with silver clouds, and the forest surrounding the palace stands in solemn quiet, as though waiting for something long forgotten. Inside the walls of this palace once stood a chamber so breathtaking, so wondrous, that it was called the eighth wonder of the world, the Amber Room. And though the palace itself still stands, the room has vanished, swallowed by the shadows of war and time. The Amber Room was a masterpiece unlike any other, a marvel of art, craftsmanship and opulence. Its story begins in the early 18th century within the Kingdom of Prussia. Commissioned by Frederick I of Prussia in 1701, the room was designed by German Baroque sculptor Andreas Schlüter and crafted by Danish amber artisan Gottfried Wolfram. Panels of polished amber, varying from deep russet to golden honey, were inlaid with gold leaf, mirrors, and intricate mosaics. The walls glowed with a warm, otherworldly radiance, as though the very light of the sun had been captured and suspended in stone. But the Amber Room's journey had only begun. In 1716, Frederick William I of Prussia presented the room as a gift to Peter the Great of Russia, symbolizing an alliance between the two powers. The panels were carefully disassembled, transported across the icy expanses of northern Europe, and reassembled within the Catherine Palace at Tsarskoye Selo, near St. Petersburg. There, Russian artisans expanded the chamber, adding even more gilded elements and embellishments, transforming it into a breathtaking showcase of imperial wealth. Stepping into the Amber Room was like entering a living jewel. The walls shimmered with translucent stone, casting a soft golden glow that seemed to warm the air itself. Mirrors reflected endless facets of amber and gold, while gilded mouldings and Florentine mosaics added flourishes of elegance. It was a place not merely to be seen, but to be experienced, a sanctuary of light and luxury that left visitors spellbound. For centuries, the Amber Room stood as a symbol of Russia's grandeur, a jewel in the crown of the Romanov dynasty. But the tides of history are rarely kind to beauty. In 1941, as the Second World War engulfed Europe, the German Wehrmacht advanced on the Soviet Union. The Nazi invasion brought devastation to the gates of Leningrad, and with it, the fate of the Amber Room was sealed. The curators of the Catherine Palace, aware of the approaching threat, attempted to protect the room, but the delicate amber panels were brittle and fragile. Hasty efforts to remove and hide them proved insufficient. When the Germans captured the palace, they quickly seized the Amber Room, packing the panels into crates and transporting them to Königsberg in East Prussia, today's Kaliningrad. There, the room was reassembled and displayed in Königsberg Castle, albeit briefly. As the war turned against Germany and the Allies closed in, the trail of the Amber Room grows murky. The city of Königsberg was heavily bombed in 1944, and in 1945 it was captured by the Soviet army. In the chaos of war's end, the Amber Room disappeared. Since that time, the fate of the Amber Room has been shrouded in mystery. Some believe it was destroyed in the bombings, reduced to ash and memory. Others insist it was secreted away, hidden in underground bunkers, salt mines, or deep within the forests of East Prussia. Over the decades, numerous expeditions and searches have been launched, exploring caves, ruins, and submerged wrecks. A few amber fragments have surfaced, but the complete treasure remains elusive. Theories abound. Some suggest the treasure was loaded onto the Wilhelm Gustloff, a German ship sunk by a Soviet submarine, now resting on the Baltic Sea floor. Others suspect that the Soviets themselves may have recovered it secretly, concealing its existence for reasons unknown. Whispers of a Nazi convoy escaping into the Harz Mountains or tunnels beneath Wrocław keep the legend alive. Every few years, a new claim arises. An old map, a whispered confession, a hidden chamber revealed, but the room itself remains stubbornly lost. In 1979, Russian and German artisans began the painstaking task of recreating the Amber Room, using old photographs, drawings, and surviving fragments as their guide. After more than 2 decades of meticulous work, the reconstruction was completed in 2003, and today it gleams once more within the Catherine Palace, a tribute to artistry, resilience, and cultural memory. But even this magnificent replica cannot replace the enigma of the original. To imagine the lost Amber Room is to conjure visions of golden light filtered through the warm translucence of stone, of a room where time itself might have slowed to marvel at the craftsmanship. Perhaps the original still lies hidden in some forgotten vault, its panels wrapped in decay, but still glowing faintly, waiting to be rediscovered. Or perhaps it is gone forever, scattered to dust and memory, existing now only in stories, photographs, and the hopeful hearts of those who dream of uncovering the past. As you step back from the imagined walls of amber, the cold breath of winter presses gently against your cheeks. The Catherine Palace stands silent in the snow, its windows like darkened eyes watching the forest beyond. The air is still, save for the whisper of wind through the bare trees, carrying with it the soft echo of a vanished treasure. Somewhere in the folds of history, the Amber Room sleeps, whether in secret or in oblivion. And as the stars emerge in the frost-clear sky, casting their pale silver light upon the earth, the mystery remains, glimmering just beyond our grasp, like the fleeting warmth of the sun captured in stone. The sea is calm tonight, stretching out like a sheet of glass beneath a canopy of stars. The gentle rocking of the waves whispers softly against a distant shoreline, where palm trees sway lazily in the night breeze. Somewhere beyond the horizon lies the island of Madagascar, its coasts wild and craggy, veiled in mist and legend. In the hush of the tropics, it is said that gold sleeps beneath the sand, hidden long ago by one of the most infamous pirates to sail these waters, Captain William Kidd. The name Captain Kidd stirs images of cutlasses and stormy seas, of black flags fluttering against a bruised sky, and of buried chests heavy with gold coins and glittering jewels. Yet, Kidd's story is more complicated than the typical tales of piracy. Born in Scotland around 1645, William Kidd was not always an outlaw. He began as a legitimate privateer commissioned by the English crown to hunt down pirates preying upon merchant vessels in the Indian Ocean. Armed with letters of marque, he sailed the seas as a sanctioned hunter, a man on the side of law and order, at least in theory. But the line between privateer and pirate was perilously thin, and soon Kidd's fortunes shifted. Accusations swirled that he had himself turned to piracy, attacking not just enemy ships, but neutral or friendly merchants. One of his most infamous captures was the Credag Merchant, an Armenian vessel laden with silk, gold, spices, and other treasures. Though the legality of the capture was contested, the deed was enough to cast Kidd in a treacherous light. Returning to the Caribbean and eventually New York, Kidd found himself betrayed and vilified. His former backers distanced themselves, and the English authorities sought to make an example of him. In 1701, William Kidd was tried and executed in London. His body hung in chains over the River Thames as a grim warning to others who might turn pirate. But before his capture, the legend goes, Kidd hid part of his treasure. He is said to have buried gold and valuables along various coastlines, most famously near Madagascar, a known pirate haven at the time. The island's hidden coves, labyrinthine inlets, and secluded beaches made it the perfect place for secrecy. Kidd himself was known to frequent Île Sainte-Marie, a small island off Madagascar's eastern coast, where many pirates found refuge. The precise location of Kidd's treasure has never been confirmed, yet rumours have never ceased. Some believe it was hidden on Madagascar's mainland, in a cave concealed by vines and rock. Others suggest it lies beneath the sands of an unmarked beach, where the jungle now presses close to the shoreline. Stories tell of intricate maps marked with cryptic symbols, pointing the way to unimaginable wealth. But if such maps exist, they have yet to guide anyone to success. The allure of Captain Kidd's treasure has inspired countless expeditions. Explorers, adventurers, and dreamers have scoured the shores of Madagascar and its neighbouring islands, probing caves, digging into sandy soil, and diving in search of sunken wrecks. In 2015, a team led by marine archaeologist Barry Clifford claimed to have discovered a silver ingot off the coast of Île Sainte-Marie, thought to be connected to Kidd's treasure. But subsequent investigations cast doubt on the find, suggesting the bar was more likely lead ballast from a shipwreck unrelated to Kidd. Despite the skepticism, the legend persists, nourished by the romance of piracy and the eternal hope of lost treasure. Madagascar, with its lush rainforests, dramatic cliffs, and secret bays, remains a place where the past feels close, as though the echo of Kidd's footsteps still lingers in the sand. Yet beyond the gold itself, the story of Captain Kidd is a reflection of deeper themes: betrayal, ambition, and the murky interplay between legitimacy and lawlessness. Kidd was a man who straddled the line between privateer and pirate, caught in the shifting politics of empires and commerce. His fall from grace, his execution, and the enduring mystery of his hidden wealth are reminders of how easily a man's fate can turn, especially when fortunes ride the tides of the sea. As you imagine walking along a moonlit shore, the waves gently lapping at your feet, it is easy to feel the pull of the unknown. Perhaps just beneath the surface, beneath layers of sand and coral, lies a chest encrusted with salt and barnacles, its iron bindings rusted but still secure. Inside, the gold coins bear the faces of long-dead monarchs, their luster dimmed but not extinguished. Jewels, their colours deep and rich, sparkle faintly even in the shadows, and the air, for just a moment, feels heavy with the weight of history. Or perhaps the treasure is gone, found long ago and spirited away in secret. Perhaps it was never buried, its existence more myth than fact. Yet the sea keeps its secrets well, and the imagination, like the waves, never rests. The stars glimmer overhead, their light reflected faintly on the surface of the water. The island sleeps, its forests whispering in the dark. The night is alive with the sound of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl, while the ocean sighs quietly, as if cradling the lost tales of mariners and buccaneers. As you step away from the shoreline, leaving only faint footprints that the tide will soon erase, the legend of Captain Kidd lingers like a faint melody carried on the breeze. The treasure may yet slumber beneath the sands of Madagascar, waiting for a hand daring enough to uncover it. Or it may remain forever a story whispered by the waves, a reminder that some mysteries are best left to the sea. As the sun dips low over the rugged expanse of the Arizona desert, the sky transforms into a canvas of soft rose, amber and violet. The horizon blurs beneath a hazy warmth, and the land stretches vast and silent, where towering saguaro cacti stand like sentinels watching over centuries of secrets. In the distance, the jagged silhouette of the Superstition Mountains rises from the earth, their crags and cliffs cast in deep shadow. The air is dry and still, heavy with the scent of dust and creosote, and yet, somewhere within these ancient rocks, a fortune is said to be hidden, a gold mine so rich and secretive that it has lured countless dreamers to their fate. This is the legend of the lost Dutchman's mine. The Superstition Mountains, just east of Phoenix, are a place of stark beauty and quiet menace. Their very name, Superstition, is steeped in stories of misfortune, mystery, and eerie happenings. Long before European settlers arrived, the Apache people regarded these mountains as sacred and perilous, believing that a portal to the underworld lay within the peaks, guarded by spirits both benevolent and malevolent. The tale of the lost Dutchman's mine begins in the mid-19th century with a man named Jacob Waltz, a German immigrant whose name became forever entwined with the legend. Despite being called the Dutchman, a common misnomer for Germans at the time, Waltz was known as a solitary, somewhat secretive figure. He lived quietly in Phoenix, but stories whispered that he possessed knowledge of a fabulously rich gold mine hidden somewhere deep within the Superstition Mountains. According to the most popular versions of the tale, Waltz discovered the mine either through his own explorations or through the secret shared by a Peralta family, a Mexican clan reputed to have worked a rich vein of gold in the area before being slaughtered in an Apache ambush. Waltz is said to have made periodic trips into the mountains, returning with gold nuggets of such purity that they sparkled like the afternoon sun on water. Yet, he never revealed the exact location of his find. On his deathbed in 1891, it is claimed that Waltz imparted cryptic clues to his nurse, Julia Thomas. She, along with several others, attempted to follow his directions, but was unsuccessful. The directions spoke of landmarks, needle-like rock formations, hidden springs, and deep canyons. But in a land where rock and shadow often play tricks on the eye, certainty remained elusive. Over the decades, the legend grew. Stories emerged of prospectors stumbling upon veins of gold, only to meet with sudden misfortune, accidents, disappearances, or mysterious deaths. Some said the spirits of the Apache still guarded the mine, ensuring that those who trespassed paid a heavy price. Others believed that Waltz himself had laid traps or left false clues to protect his secret. The lure of the lost Dutchman's mine became irresistible. From seasoned explorers to casual adventurers, many entered the Superstitions, armed with maps, shovels, and determination. Few returned with more than sunburns and empty hands. Some did not return at all. The mountain range claimed lives with its harsh environment, sudden storms, venomous wildlife, and disorienting terrain. And yet, each generation brought new seekers, each convinced that they might be the one to finally uncover the truth. Geologists and skeptics argue that the geology of the Superstition Mountains makes the existence of such a rich gold deposit unlikely. The volcanic rock and desert formations don't typically yield large gold veins. Yet the stories persist, fueled by human imagination and the age-old hunger for fortune and mystery. Even the US government has taken an interest over the years, with occasional surveys and expeditions, though officially the mine remains as elusive as ever. But perhaps the true treasure of the lost Dutchman's mine lies not in gold, but in the enduring allure of the unknown. The Superstition Mountains possess a unique kind of magic, a rugged beauty that captures the spirit of the frontier, a place where legends feel almost tangible in the sharp desert air. Standing amidst the cliffs and boulders, with the sun setting in a blaze of colour, it is easy to believe that secrets might yet be held within the folds of the land, just beyond reach. Imagine, if you will, descending into a narrow canyon, the walls steep and enclosing, the light dim and golden. The air cools slightly, the sounds of the desert muffled by stone. There, half buried in the sand, you catch a glimpse of something, a glimmer, a reflection. Perhaps it is only a shard of quartz, or perhaps it is gold, waiting patiently through the centuries, untouched beneath layers of dust and time. As night falls, the desert transforms. The air cools sharply, the sky ignites with stars, vast and innumerable. The Superstition Mountains stand dark and silent against the heavens, their jagged peaks like the broken teeth of some ancient beast long turned to stone. The winds sigh through the canyons, carrying the faint scent of sagebrush and the whispers of countless stories told around campfires. Whether the lost Dutchman's mine truly exists or not, its legend has become part of the very fabric of the desert, a tale woven into the land itself, as enduring and enigmatic as the stars above. And in the stillness of the night, beneath the starlit sky, the mountain keeps its secrets, cradling its mysteries in stone and shadow, waiting for the dawn. The sea at night can feel endless, a boundless expanse of black velvet beneath a scattering of stars. The waves move gently, a constant hush and murmur, as if the ocean itself is whispering old stories to the wind. Somewhere beneath this liquid vastness, resting in the embrace of the Indian Ocean, sleeps a treasure ship lost to time, the Flor de la Mar, the flower of the sea. She was a galleon of grand ambition and tragic fate, her name forever tied to one of history's greatest lost fortunes. The Flor de la Mar was a Portuguese carrack, launched in 1502 at the height of the Age of Discovery, when European powers raced to chart new worlds and claim distant riches. She was a magnificent vessel for her time, a floating fortress of over 400 tons, with high castles at her bow and stern, sails like great wings unfurling against the sky, and a hull built to endure the capricious moods of the ocean. She carried cannons, soldiers, and sailors, but above all, she carried dreams of wealth beyond imagining. Her journeys took her far from Lisbon's shores, deep into the spice-laden waters of the East Indies, where nutmeg, cloves, and pepper fetched fortunes in Europe. But it was in 1511, during the conquest of Malacca on the Malay Peninsula, that the Flor de la Mar's name became legend. Malacca was a thriving hub of trade, a city where merchants from Arabia, India, China, and beyond gathered to exchange wares and stories. When the Portuguese forces, led by the formidable Afonso de Albuquerque, captured the city, they seized a treasure that stunned even seasoned conquerors. The hoard was extraordinary: gold, precious stones, silks, porcelain, and countless other spoils of war. This vast wealth was loaded onto the Flor de la Mar, which was to carry it back to Portugal as a shimmering testament to empire and conquest. But the sea, ever impartial to human ambition, had other plans. As the Flor de la Mar set sail, she encountered the treacherous waters of the Strait of Malacca, where hidden shoals and sudden storms threatened even the most seasoned mariners. The Galleon, already heavily burdened and structurally fragile from years of use, met her doom in a violent tempest off the coast of Sumatra. The storm tore at her sails, waves battered her sides, and in the chaos of wind and water, the great ship broke apart. The treasure, along with the ship and most of her crew, was swallowed by the sea. Afonso de Albuquerque survived, but the wealth of Malacca was lost beneath the waves, scattered across the ocean floor, shrouded in darkness and salt. For over 5 centuries, the fate of the Flor de la Mar has tantalized explorers, historians, and treasure hunters alike. Countless expeditions have sought her resting place, combing the murky depths with sonar, diving bells, and hope. Yet, Despite the allure and advances in technology, the ship has never been found. The ocean guards its dead well, especially in the complex and shifting waters where the Flor de la Mar was claimed. Some believe that the wreck lies in shallow waters, buried beneath layers of silt and coral. Others suspect she may have drifted into deeper channels, where recovery would be nearly impossible. The seafloor in these parts is a complex landscape, riddled with trenches, reefs, and sunken relics of other lesser-known vessels, making the search akin to chasing a ghost in a labyrinth. And yet, the legend persists. The thought of a fortune of gold, gems, and priceless artifacts resting undisturbed beneath the sea captures the imagination, a siren call to those who cannot resist the lure of discovery. To find the Flor de la Mar would not only be to claim an extraordinary treasure, but also to resurrect a piece of history that has long since faded into the currents. But the sea is not merely a keeper of treasure, it is also a keeper of memory. Every sunken ship is a story preserved in salt and shadow. The Flor de la Mar is more than a lost galleon. It is a symbol of an era when the world seemed vast and unknowable, when men set sail with only the stars to guide them, driven by equal parts greed, glory, and curiosity. As you stand on the imagined deck of the Flor de la Mar, the air thick with the scent of salt and wet wood, the stars seem close enough to touch. You hear the creak of timbers, the snap of sails catching the wind, and the distant murmur of sailors speaking in hushed Portuguese. Below deck, the treasure gleams dimly in the lantern light, piles of gold coins, ornate jewellery, delicate silks folded in chests, and statues carved from ivory and jade. Then comes the storm, an all-consuming roar of wind and water. The sky darkens, the waves swell, and the ship groans under the strain. The deck tilts perilously, the treasure below shifts and crashes, and in a final shudder, the great ship yields to the sea's embrace, descending slowly into darkness. And now, beneath layers of water and time, the Flor de la Mar rests. Perhaps it is still there, cradled in a pocket of the seabed, her cargo waiting, untouched by human hands. Or perhaps the sea, relentless and patient, has scattered her wealth across the sands, each piece swallowed by coral reefs and shifting tides. As the night deepens, the ocean reflects the starlight like scattered silver, and the waves continue their eternal motion. Somewhere out there, beneath the depths, the flower of the sea sleeps, her story a blend of history and legend, her treasure a glimmer just beyond reach. You stand on the shore, the night breeze cool against your skin, and listen to the soft rhythm of the waves. The sea keeps its counsel, but the promise of what lies beneath stirs the imagination still. The Flor de la Mar remains lost, but her legend drifts on the water's surface, shimmering faintly in the moonlight, like the memory of gold. The desert sleeps beneath a sky of endless stars, the sands glowing faintly under the cool light of the moon. The air is still, yet heavy with the ancient scent of stone, dust, and time. In the distance, the pyramids of Giza loom like great slumbering giants, their sharp silhouettes cutting against the horizon. But beyond these familiar monuments, buried deep within the hidden folds of the desert, lies the whispered promise of treasures yet unfound, the lost riches of the Pharaohs, secreted away in tombs still undiscovered, waiting beneath the sands of Egypt. Egypt, land of the Nile and cradle of civilization, was once ruled by kings and queens whose wealth and power were beyond imagination. The Pharaohs were not merely rulers, they were gods on earth, their reigns immortalized in stone, hieroglyphs, and gold. Death for a pharaoh was not an end, but a passage to eternity. And for this journey, They prepared lavishly, surrounding themselves in death with all that had adorned their lives. The Valley of the Kings, hidden in the arid cliffs near Luxor, is one of the most famous necropolises in the world. Here, dozens of tombs were carved into the rock, each meant to be a sealed universe for the departed king, a world of gold, alabaster, lapis lazuli, and intricate art designed to guide the soul safely into the afterlife. Yet even this valley, rich in history, holds only a fraction of Egypt's royal burials. Most famous among the finds is the tomb of Tutankhamun, discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter. Within its sealed chambers lay a treasury beyond belief: golden chariots, jewelry, statues, and the iconic golden funerary mask that has since become a symbol of ancient Egypt's splendor. But if the burial of a relatively minor king yielded such marvels, what of the great pharaohs like Amenhotep III, Thutmose II, or even Ramses VIII, whose final resting places have never been found? The ancient records tell of pyramids and tombs yet hidden, of caches of gold and ceremonial treasures still waiting beneath the desert floor. The lost tomb of Queen Nefertiti, one of the most enigmatic figures of Egyptian history, remains a source of tantalizing speculation. Nefertiti, renowned for her beauty and her possible co-regency with Akhenaten, may lie undiscovered within a secret chamber adjacent to Tutankhamun's own tomb, a theory that continues to provoke debate and exploration. But the sands of Egypt are treacherous guardians. Over millennia, tombs have been swallowed by shifting dunes, hidden by collapsed rock, or obscured by the very passage of time. The ancient Egyptians were masterful at hiding their dead. False corridors, sealed shafts, and elaborate traps were all designed to protect the sanctity of the tombs from robbers. Even in antiquity, tomb raiding was rampant, and many royal resting places were emptied long before modern eyes could glimpse their wonders. Yet, despite these losses, hope remains. In recent decades, technology has provided new tools. Ground-penetrating radar, infrared scanning, and satellite imagery have begun to peel back the layers of the earth, revealing tantalizing anomalies beneath the desert's surface. Each discovery feeds the hope that an untouched tomb, replete with unimaginable treasures, still lies hidden, silent, patient, and complete. There are stories of the lost treasures of Tanis, the capital of the 21st dynasty, where tombs rich in gold were discovered but never fully excavated. There are whispers of hidden burial sites in the western desert, where expeditions into the barren expanse might one day stumble upon another Valley of Kings, its entrances masked by the sheer scale of the wilderness. Imagine stepping carefully through a narrow rock passage, your footsteps stirring the dust of thousands of years. The air is cool and musty, the scent of stone, and something faintly metallic, the smell of gold preserved in the dark. A chamber opens ahead, its walls adorned with intricate carvings depicting gods, ceremonies, and celestial journeys. In the center, a great sarcophagus rests, its lid sealed, its surface inscribed with prayers and protective spells. Around it, chests of ebony and ivory, golden statues, ornate jewelry, and delicate alabaster jars still sealed with wax. The room glows faintly in your torchlight, the treasures reflecting a warmth like captured sunlight, and then the realization that you are the first to stand here in millennia, to witness what was never meant to be seen again. The pharaoh sleeps still, adorned in gold and lapis, waiting for eternity, as the desert above continues its quiet, shifting dance. Yet the allure of Egypt's lost tombs is not merely about gold and jewels. It is the connection to a civilization that saw the world through a lens of eternity, where death was but a doorway and time a circle, rather than a line. Every artifact, every inscription, is a message from the past, a bridge across ages. To uncover such a tomb is to awaken a voice long silent, to glimpse the dreams and fears of a people who lived under the gaze of gods. As the first light of dawn creeps across the desert, the sand begins to glow softly, as if the earth itself remembers the gold it hides beneath. The pyramids stand serene in the distance, their ancient stones catching the pale sunlight, while the Nile continues its eternal flow, life and history entwined. The desert remains vast, its secrets buried deep, its treasures waiting for the patient and the fortunate. Somewhere, beneath layers of rock, beneath sands that shift with every wind, the lost treasures of the Pharaohs remain, their gold untouched, their stories unfinished, their splendor ready to dazzle anew if only they are found. You step back from the imagined tomb, feeling the cool breeze of morning and the warmth of the rising sun. The sands whisper softly underfoot, as if the desert itself is exhaling after keeping its secrets for so long. The pharaohs still sleep, their riches secure, their mysteries intact. And as the light spreads across the horizon, you are reminded that in Egypt, every grain of sand holds the weight of history, and every shadow may yet conceal a door to eternity. The sea is a restless keeper of secrets, its waves ever shifting, concealing stories beneath a veil of salt and shadow. As dawn's light brushes softly against the horizon, the Atlantic Ocean awakens, its surface shimmering like a field of liquid silver. Somewhere beneath these waters, off the coast of Florida, lies the scattered wreckage of a great fleet, galleons of Spain's empire, broken by storm and swallowed by the deep. Among them rests the San Miguel, a ship whose name echoes with the promise of untold riches, forever lost beneath the waves. The year was 1715, and the Spanish Empire stood as one of the world's most formidable powers, its wealth fueled by the flow of silver and gold from the New World. Each year, fleets of galleons would set sail from the Americas, heavy with treasure bound for the royal coffers in Spain. These were the Spanish treasure fleets, or the plate fleets, named for the plata, or silver, that formed much of their cargo. But aboard these ships travelled far more than silver. There were chests of gold coins, emeralds the size of a man's thumb, pearls, spices, porcelain from the East, and objects of exquisite craftsmanship. In July of 1715, one such fleet, consisting of 11 ships, departed from Havana, Cuba. Their destination was Spain, and their holds were packed with riches gathered from across the Spanish territories in the Americas. But fate would intervene in the form of a hurricane, a monstrous storm that swept across the Atlantic with relentless fury. The ships caught in its path were powerless against the winds and waves that smashed hulls and tore sails as though they were paper. One by one, the galleons succumbed to the storm, dashed against reefs, and dragged into the depths off the coast of Florida, near what is now known as the Treasure Coast. Thousands of lives were lost, and the wealth of an empire lay scattered along the seafloor, hidden beneath coral, sand, and seaweed. Among these ships was the San Miguel, reputedly the richest of the fleet, her cargo rumoured to be so vast that it was destined specifically for the personal coffers of the Spanish king. The survivors of the wreckage managed to establish makeshift camps along the shoreline, sending word back to Havana and eventually to Spain. Salvage operations were hastily organised, and some treasure was recovered, but the sea had already claimed much of it. Over time, the wreck sites were forgotten, their precise locations blurred by shifting sands and the relentless motion of the ocean. Centuries passed, and the legend of the 1715 fleet, and particularly the San Miguel, grew. Treasure hunters, lured by the promise of unimaginable wealth, began to search the Florida coast and the surrounding waters. In the 20th century, advances in diving technology and underwater exploration reignited the quest. Coins, jewelry, and gold bars have been recovered from some of the wrecks, glimmering testimonies to the treasure that still lies waiting. Yet the San Miguel herself remains elusive, her final resting place, a mystery the sea guards closely. The allure of the San Miguel is not merely in her cargo, but in the aura of the age she represents, the twilight of the Spanish Empire's golden age, when galleons sailed as floating fortresses, their decks alive with the creak of wood, the snap of canvas, and the murmur of prayers offered for safe passage. To imagine her is to see a ship of grandeur, her timbers dark and sturdy, her sails billowing white against the azure sky, and her decks laden with chests of gleaming gold coins, heavy silver ingots, and crates of jewels wrapped in silk. Below decks, the air would have been cool and damp, scented with the mingled aromas of wood, salt, and the faint tang of precious metals. The treasure was meticulously recorded, counted, and secured, guarded by soldiers whose watchful eyes carried both pride and anxiety. Every coin, every gem represented not just wealth, but power, a symbol of Spain's dominion over distant lands and seas. Then came the storm, ominous clouds blotting out the sun, the wind rising with a howl, the sea turning from gentle companion to merciless adversary. The San Miguel, like her companions, fought to stay afloat, her crew battling wind and water in a desperate struggle. But nature's force was absolute. With a great shudder, the ship began to break, the timbers groaning as waves smashed against her hull. Treasure, cargo, and men alike were hurled into the sea, swallowed by the depths, their cries lost to the roar of the storm. Today, divers still plunge into the warm waters of the Atlantic in search of the San Miguel. They navigate coral reefs and sandbanks, scanning the seafloor with sonar and metal detectors, eyes keen for a glint of gold or the shape of a cannon half buried in silt. The ocean, though, reveals her secrets slowly, if at all. For every coin recovered, for every fragment of silver, the question remains: where is the San Miguel? Where does the richest ship of the 1715 fleet lie sleeping? Perhaps the sea holds her close, her timbers softened to driftwood, her treasure resting in a hollow of coral and stone. Or perhaps the sands have shifted over her remains, hiding them just beyond the reach of those who seek her. The ocean is a patient warden, and its secrets, once lost, are not easily reclaimed. As the sun sets over the water, casting long streaks of gold and crimson across the waves, the sea quiets once more, its surface calm and inscrutable. Somewhere beneath, the San Miguel waits, her treasure intact, her story unfinished, a glimmer of empire resting in darkness. You stand at the shoreline, the sound of the waves gentle and rhythmic, like a lullaby sung by the sea itself. The horizon stretches endlessly, the sky now scattered with stars. And as the night deepens, the San Miguel sleeps on, her gold untouched, her legend alive in the hearts of those who still dream of finding her. In the stillness of the Judean desert, where the rocky cliffs descend sharply toward the shimmering expanse of the Dead Sea, the air hangs heavy with an ancient hush. The landscape is stark and unforgiving, sun-bleached stones resting under a wide, endless sky of pale blue. Yet within these barren hills, beneath the watchful gaze of wind and time, lies a mystery that has confounded scholars and dreamers alike, a riddle etched not on parchment or papyrus, but on a fragile sheet of hammered copper. This is the story of the Copper Scroll, a map of hidden treasure that has yet to reveal its secrets. The tale begins in 1952, deep within Cave 3 near Qumran, where archaeologists exploring the desert's labyrinthine caves stumbled upon something extraordinary. Unlike the other Dead Sea Scrolls, delicate with age and ink, this scroll was made entirely of thin copper sheets, inscribed with a list, not of religious teachings or philosophical musings, but of locations, weights, and descriptions of treasure. It was a catalogue of hidden riches, gold, silver, sacred vessels, and offerings secreted away across the land. The script, written in a form of Mishnaic Hebrew, was precise and matter-of-fact. It detailed the whereabouts of 64 hoards, specifying measures of talent-weighted gold and silver, alongside enigmatic directions: in the ruin that is in the Valley of Achor, or under the stairs in the salt pit, phrases that tantalize but offer no clear path to discovery. The total wealth described, if real, would be staggering. Some estimates suggest billions in modern currency. Who created the Copper Scroll and why remains a subject of heated debate. Some scholars suggest it was the work of the Essenes, the ascetic sect believed to have lived at Qumran, who sought to safeguard their community's treasures from Roman invasion during the tumultuous years leading up to the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE. Others speculate that it may relate to the temple treasure itself, secreted away to keep it from being seized during times of upheaval. Unlike other scrolls, which are meditative, symbolic, or religious in nature, the Copper Scroll is coldly practical. It reads less like scripture and more like a treasure map, a list of instructions for retrieving specific caches of wealth placed deliberately across the Judean wilderness, caves, cisterns, and ruins. Yet no definitive trace of these treasures has ever been found. Explorers have tried. Over the decades, archaeologists, adventurers, and even clandestine diggers have combed the desert, the hills around Qumran, and the twisting passages of caves along the Dead Sea. They search with the scroll's words in hand, measuring distances, deciphering cryptic directions, hoping that a shaft, a stair, or a ruin might yield the glitter of ancient gold. Yet each effort returns with the same result: stones, sand, and the echo of possibility. Some suggest that the treasures were long since looted, perhaps even by those who first hid them. Others argue that the scroll was never meant to be a real inventory, but a symbolic gesture, a spiritual metaphor veiled in the guise of material wealth. Still, others remain convinced that the treasure endures, awaiting discovery by someone patient and wise enough to read the ancient landscape like a living text. To imagine the desert as it was then is to see a harsh, rugged land alive with danger and beauty. The cliffs rise like jagged teeth, the wadis cut deep into the earth, and the sky stretches vast and unyielding overhead. The Essenes, if they were the authors, would have known these lands intimately, its caves, its blind paths, its hidden springs. They would have chosen their hiding places carefully, ensuring that only those with true knowledge could ever hope to retrieve the sacred wealth. Close your eyes and picture descending into a shadowed cave, its entrance a narrow fissure in the rock, nearly invisible from a distance. The air grows cool and damp, the walls slick with condensation, the sound of your breath loud against the stone. Somewhere deeper, beneath layers of earth and debris, might rest an urn, a sealed jar, or a chest of hammered gold, untouched since the days when the Roman legions marched through Judea, their banners red against the sky. Or perhaps the treasure was never here. Perhaps it was moved or never existed at all. Yet, there is something profoundly compelling in the search itself, in the possibility that the desert still holds within it a tangible connection to an ancient vanished world. The Copper Scroll itself, now housed in the Jordan Museum in Amman, is a fragile artifact, its copper plates carefully unfurled and preserved, its text preserved in a steady formal script that feels both ordinary and otherworldly. Scholars continue to translate and retranslate its words, seeking nuances, hidden codes, or geographical hints that might finally reveal where the treasure lies. And yet, like so many mysteries of the past, the copper scroll teases but never yields. It remains a riddle wrapped in metal, heavy with the weight of history, faith, and longing. As the sun sets over the Dead Sea, casting the water in hues of gold and crimson, the desert returns to its quiet, the shadows lengthening across the stones. The air cools, and the sky fills with stars, ancient and unchanging as they have been since the scroll was first hidden away. Somewhere in the darkness, perhaps beneath a forgotten ruin or sealed beneath a collapsed stairway, the treasure of the copper scroll may still rest, silent, patient, eternal. You step gently back into the night, the wind carrying the faint scent of salt from the distant sea. The land seems to breathe, vast and knowing, holding its secrets close. The copper scroll remains a guide to a treasure unseen, a testament to the human yearning to seek, to uncover, and to understand. And beneath the starlit sky, with the desert stretching wide and endless, the mystery waits, just as it has for 2,000 years. And so, beneath waves and sands, deep within jungles and deserts, and even resting under the watchful gaze of the stars, the world's greatest lost treasures remain, hidden, silent, yet alive in the stories we continue to tell. These mysteries may never be solved, or perhaps they await the right hands, the right heart, to uncover them. But whether gold is ever found, the journey through history's enigmas offers us its own kind of treasure, a connection to the past, to the people and dreams that shaped it, and to the wonder that still lingers in forgotten places. Let your thoughts fade like mist across an ancient plain, and let rest find you softly and slowly. Or if you're still full of quiet curiosity, why not journey onward with one of our other stories? Perhaps a voyage through ancient civilizations, or the secrets of history's most remarkable explorers. Wherever you are, thank you for listening, and until next time, sleep well.